All right, whiskey freaks, I've got a bourbon trivia question for y'all today. Yeah, I know. I'm taking a turn down a road we've never gone down. I don't ask you trivia here. I often do sometimes that Guess the Whiskey, which, by the way, Guess the Whiskey's coming back in a future episode. But this one today, this one trips up a lot of folks, to say the least, including some pretty serious whiskey freaks. And here's that question. Is Buffalo Trace Distillery on the official Kentucky Bourbon Trail? Now, if you just shouted yes at your phone or in your car, look, I don't blame you. That's what almost everybody thinks. Because when people start planning a bourbon trip to Kentucky, Buffalo Trace is usually one of the very first places they talk about going to. It's the first thing for almost everybody, actually. It's like going to Mecca, but for whiskey freaks. How could you not go to Buffalo Trace, right? I mean, this is the distillery that makes Blanton Single Barrel, Eagle Rare, and W.L. Weller, George T. Stagg, right? Some of the most hunted bottles in the entire whiskey world. So naturally, people assume Buffalo Trace must be one of the headline stops on the official Kentucky Bourbon Trail. Except it isn't. Buffalo Trace is not officially on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. Not technically, not kinda. It's just simply not on it. Now, when people first hear that, they're like, bullshit, Stark. And then their next question is always the same. What in the actual hell are you talking about? How is that even possible? Well, the answer comes down to a little bourbon industry politics. See, the Bourbon Trail is run by the Kentucky Distillers Association. And they're that trade group that organizes the official trail, the marketing, the passport stamps in the books. I think a t-shirt too back in the day. I think maybe they still have the t-shirt now. You know, all that stuff. And don't even get me started on all 7,381 stops on the official trail. That's going to be another segment, or shit, I can even probably do a full episode on that one. Believe me, I'm going to rant like hell on that. But let's stay focused here on Buffalo Trace today. And here's where it gets interesting, guys. Back in 2009, the parent company of Buffalo Trace, the good folks at the Sazerac Company, they decided to leave the Kentucky Distillers Association. Well, why did they want to leave? Well, it wasn't like this big knockdown drag out. It wasn't a dramatic falling out or anything like that. It was more about control and independence. And on one hand, I kind of get this. Sazerac wanted the freedom to basically manage its own tours and do its own marketing and have its own bourbon events without being tied to rules of a big trade group like the Kentucky Distillers Association. Plus, there were some disagreements over membership fees and who got to be featured on the official Bourbon Trail, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, a couple different reasons here for that. So once Sazerac left the association, Buffalo Trace was no longer part of the official Bourbon Trail program. So if you're doing the official trail with the passport and the checklist and the things, you'll notice, if you haven't already noticed, guys, Buffalo Trace is not one of the stops you can get a stamp for. But here's the funny part. Almost everybody still goes there anyway. Seriously, if someone tells you they just got back from a bourbon trip to Kentucky and you ask them, hey, what distilleries did you go to? The list will inevitably always include Buffalo Trace. Because the place is legendary. It's one of the oldest continuously operating distilleries in the United States, and the property in Frankfort, it looks like something straight out of bourbon history. You'll notice the brick warehouses right there, and from the parking lot, you can see them. All the old distillery buildings. You even get that smell of cooking mash in the air on the campus when you walk from the parking lot to the gift shop, or you go on a tour. And I can attest to all of these things. It's basically bourbon heaven for a whiskey freak. So what ends up happening is that most people's bourbon trail trip looks something kind of like this. They visit Maker's Mark, which, by the way, you should. It's beautiful. They dip their bottle, right? You got to dip your bottle at least one time, right? Then you swing by Woodford Reserve, which There are horses on the way there. It's so picturesque. Believe me, your wife is going to love that one. Woodford Reserve. Just getting there is amazing. You're going to stop at Four Roses Distillery there in Lawrenceburg. Again, beautiful architecture. It's a great tour, and it's not too far out of your way. And then you're going to absolutely go to Buffalo Trace, even though technically it's not part of the official trail. It's kind of like going to, think about it this way. It's kind of like going to Paris and saying, well, the tour didn't include the Eiffel Tower, so we just skipped it and came home. Guys, nobody does that. And the irony is that Buffalo Trace might not be on the official Bourbon Trail, but it's still one of the most visited distilleries in America, if not the world. Hundreds of thousands of people show up there every single year, and most of them are literally in Kentucky because they're doing the official supercalifragilistic Bourbon Trail. So Buffalo Trace kind of exists in this weird bourbon universe where it's not on the Bourbon Trail, but it's still one of the biggest stops for people doing the Bourbon Trail. It's a little confusing, and the story is just political enough to keep things interesting. But Whiskey Freaks, here's the real takeaway. If someone tells you they did the Bourbon Trail and they didn't go to Buffalo Trace, you might want to ask a few follow-up questions. Because technically, they did the trail, but they also kind of missed the point. All right, folks. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Instagram, Blind Tasting Podcast. Hit that subscribe button on Apple, iHeart, Spotify, so we give that pesky algorithm something to chew on. And don't forget, in just a week or so, I've got a huge tease here for you guys. I have a legend in the whiskey world coming on the podcast. And I'm not sure if I'm not 100% sure if it's next week or the week after, but let me just say this. Somebody with the last name Beam is coming on. Yes, that Beam. And he's going to join me to talk about his past life as a long-time master distiller in Kentucky and his, his present and future life now also as a master distiller. And if you want to find out who this whiskey legend is and hear his story, you're just going to have to tune in to find out. So make sure you make sure you subscribe, hit the buttons, go to YouTube. I know very few of you listen on YouTube. Most of you listen on Apple and Spotify and iHeart. But I need you to go to all the places, subscribe, so we get the word out. Well, that's all I got for today, Whiskey Freaks. Thanks for listening to the Blind Tasting Podcast.